Hi, my name is Kyle Hebenstreet. I'm the CEO of PMP. I recently spoke at a conference, PILMA's Super Summit in New Orleans, about a market research study that we'd currently had conducted, and I'd received a lot of positive feedback and requests for the material, so I thought I might film this abridged version of the presentation that provides a little bit of voiceover and context to the materials. So let's dive in. It's a little bit of background on me as a CEO. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana originally. I'm the son of a judge and an attorney. I went to the University of Southern California. A love of movies drove me there to study film and business. And then I subsequently worked at Skydance Media, which is a film co-financing and production company, most recently actually having made headlines because they might be acquiring Paramount Pictures. But while I was there, we produced such movies as Mission Impossible, Star Trek Into Darkness, and World War Z. An interest in entrepreneurship took me to Indiana University's Kelley School of Business to get my MBA. And from there, I went to Chicago and worked within Deloitte's consulting practice, largely doing media work through mergers and acquisitions and growth strategies in partnership with large corporations focused on their media and advertising strategies. After a couple of years working with Deloitte, I had a unique opportunity to partner with a firm to acquire PMP. PMP is a marketing company that's been around since the early 2000s. It originated as a lead referral network for personal injury law firms across the country. It was founded by John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Around 2007, PMP evolved into a standalone advertising agency offering full suite of services to plaintiffs' firms across the country, and it grew from there. Over time, Morgan & Morgan as a law firm grew into markets that were competitive with some of PMP's clients. John's partner also was looking for an off-ramp to retirement, and so it was a great opportunity for us to step in as new owners and me to step in as the new operator of PMP. I've been with PMP for a little over 2 years now, and my goal is really to take what was already a great business and a great team with an amazing client list in an attractive market and invest in the infrastructure to future-proof it, if you will, for the future of personal injury law and for the future of advertising. So we've been aggressively investing in PMP's infrastructure and capabilities over the last several years and continue to do so, and hope to be taking our services and value to new law firms across the country. Now, a little bit more about PMP. We offer website services and advertising services. We're split into two divisions. On the website services side, we really focus on building digital presences of law firms. So we'll manage the website, social media, Google profiles, things of that nature. We'll offer content strategies and SEO to drive awareness of your law firm online for people who might be researching or looking for lawyers. And then on the advertising services side, we partner with our clients in their local markets and craft custom plans based on their goals, objectives, their marketing investment capacity, and their internal capabilities to try to reach and influence as many people across all sorts of platforms. So we'll construct a full scope marketing plan across broadcast TV, radio, connected TV, paid social media, YouTube, so on and so forth, to try to influence more people to hire our clients. Now, we could double click into each one of these capabilities and talk in depth about our point of view on that. But ultimately, these things are just tools and tactics that we use, and we actually have to think more holistically about growing our clients' businesses through driving more cases. And how we do that is influencing people's behaviors as they're looking for an attorney following an accident. So we think a lot about, from an empathetic standpoint, our clients' journey, what they go through from accident to hiring an attorney. And we think about the behaviors they take and how we might be able to influence those behaviors to help their decision-making and drive them to hopefully hire one of our clients. So that takes us to the buying process waterfall, which is a fancy way of saying customer journey. But in my personal quest to understand this more, I got reconnected with an old business school professor of mine who focuses on brand asset management. He's now at the University of Wisconsin, and he recommended this book called The Organic Growth Playbook. And admittedly, The organic growth playbook is somewhat academic and dry, but I think there's some really powerful insights within it that offer some perspective on what we do for personal injury law firms. So simply put, it goes like this. Conventional approach to marketing is you want to focus on differentiating your product or service from your competitors. You build audience segments, and then you message your differentiations to those specific audience segments based on their likelihood to be attracted to the value you provide. Now, this is all well and good and certainly time tested and useful. The hypothesis is that in a high competition, low differentiation market, this approach breaks down. I would contend that personal injury law is a high competition, low differentiation market. And I say that as somebody who runs an advertising agency, which is similarly high competition and low differentiation. So when we think about the playbook approach, we think more about people's behaviors. How can we map people's behaviors, and how can we identify those most common behaviors, and how can we do things that might influence or change those behaviors that cause someone to have a higher propensity to then take actions that would lead to hiring one of our clients. So that's really big and conceptual. I think it's easier to articulate it through this case study. So the case study here is Terrafix. This is within the book. And Terrafix is a pseudonym to protect the confidentiality of the clients of the authors of the book. Nevertheless, Terrafix is a prescription drug solution for an asymptomatic disease that largely afflicts women. The pharmaceutical company that produced Terrafix was plateauing in sales despite good reputation and brand awareness. It was in a competitive market with other competitors vying for physicians' attention to prescribe their drugs. So because of this plateau, a VP at the pharmaceutical company conducted a study to map the various paths that patients and doctors take prior to, during, and after a physical exam. What they found is that doctors most often perform qualitative assessments on patients, many times not resulting in any sort of diagnosis of having the disease that Terrafix solved or helped. And they found that patients that took an objective, a cost-efficient objective diagnostic test were 4 times more likely to receive their prescription to Terrafix. Because it was asymptomatic, they found that a very simple and near-free objective diagnostic test was given, the doctors then prescribed a drug, and many oftentimes that was Terrafix. So the insight is, let's convince more doctors to order this test, and let's also convince or persuade more patients to request this test. It doesn't mean more people are going to have this disease necessarily, but more people are going to be informed that they do and look for a solution. And of all the solutions, Terrafix was one. What they found after they executed these campaigns, which included unbranded marketing campaigns targeting women of a certain age, designed to educate and inform them of wellness programs and to request various treatments, including this diagnostic test when they went to their physician. So that's one example. They did similar types of campaigns targeted at physicians. They found that after a year of doing this, they had a 60% increase in tests that physicians facilitated on behalf of their patients. And in year 1, they had a 9% growth in revenue with a $15 million decrease in their marketing budget. In year 3, revenue grew 50%. So it's a really novel way of looking at a marketing challenge. They changed the upstream behavior of requesting or soliciting a diagnostic test, and in so doing, it opened the opportunity for all of the different prescription drug manufacturers of prescription drugs that support or help this particular disease, including Terrafix. So we take that, and what do we do with it? The idea here isn't like start a pharmaceutical company. The idea here is take the learnings from this, abstract them out, and how can we overlay them with the challenges and opportunities we face in personal injury law marketing? And so what we did is we solicited a survey of over 1,000 respondents across the country with a representative sampling of geographies across states, household incomes, genders, and ethnicities. And we asked a variety of questions about what people would do at various stages of their journey post car accident, but pre hiring an attorney. And I want to share those findings. So the prompt that was sort of the umbrella prompt for the entire survey was: imagine you are in a car accident, there is damage to your car, but it is still drivable. Your neck aches, you are not sure who is at fault. Based on prep work from our expertise, thinking about and working within this space for a long time and soliciting input from people outside of PMP, we developed these phases of a customer journey. Now, anybody who is friends or family members with a personal injury attorney is likely to go from car accident to contacting their friend. Similarly, people might jump through this chain of events depending on circumstances. It's a noisy world, but having this universal framework allows us to bring some level of organization to it, to have a common conversation, and to solve for common pain points and opportunities. So we think about post-car accident. First thing is solution identification. I need an attorney. Many people who get in a car accident don't know they need an attorney. So they first need to take some action or set of behaviors to understand that they can or should hire an attorney. Then they may not know what type of attorney, so they need to do a little extra work to understand, how much does one cost? What's the criteria I should be evaluating? Then they might take what we would consider non-channel research. So maybe this includes internet research, but maybe they're talking to friends, colleagues, or others to understand who the right attorney is for them, now that they know they need an attorney and what type of attorney. Then they go a little bit deeper, do channel research online, and then they are thinking about selecting. Like, I know which attorneys would be best for me. I need to learn a little bit more. Then they find one or a couple, and they need to validate the decision. What actions do they take, or what behaviors do they express to validate their decision? And then ultimately, they get in contact with an attorney. So we call this the buying process waterfall. Now, we want to blow that out even more and list the most common behaviors within each phase of the buying process waterfall. The goal here is first to start with how common are certain sets of behaviors that people express at various points in their journey. Once we know that, then we can focus on those most common behaviors and we can apply certain efforts to influence those to try to broaden the audience or broaden the opportunity as marketers. Now, starting from the beginning, and I'm going to walk you through this entire journey step by step and share data and insights that we uncovered from this survey. The accident occurs in the first three calls. First is to the police, the second is to the insurance company, and the third is to a friend, family member, or colleague. The interesting insight here is that the second person they call is the insurance company on average. That's above a friend, family member, or colleague. And that's because there's been targeted messaging for many decades, conditioning people to change their behavior such that when they get in an accident, their initial instincts are to call the police and call their insurance company and get the conversation going there. Now, that's not great for plaintiffs' firms because the insurance companies don't want an aggressive plaintiff's attorney involved negotiating. They want to negotiate with the other insurance carrier and keep it in their ecosystem. So the rhetorical question here is, how do we get call my attorney on this list? And we'll revisit that. Now, when we fast forward within the first couple of weeks post-accident, we asked, what's your likelihood of contacting an attorney? What we found is that 45% of people said that they would contact an attorney. 32% said they were not sure. And 23% said they would not contact an attorney. And this is a startling statistic, which births a really powerful insight that's worth taking away from this presentation and this study. This suggests that 55% of people who are in an accident where they might have a compensable case are not going to contact an attorney. So our clients at PMP are rightfully very focused on competing against other law firms in their market. It's like they're bidding on my name and paid search and so on and so forth. And I think that is a totally fair and reasonable way of thinking about things. However, what this would suggest is that law firm ABC across town is not necessarily your biggest competitor. Inaction is your biggest competitor. So the essence of this is, how do we take this knowledge and this insight, and what do we do with it to improve the opportunity set for our clients from a marketing standpoint? Now, it's helpful to double click into that and say, who are these people who are not contacting an attorney or unlikely to contact an attorney, and how do they differ from people who would? And it's not like staggering the differences, but there are a couple things that stand out. They're disproportionately female. They skew a little bit older than those who would contact an attorney, and they're largely white compared to those who said that they would contact an attorney. And just to sort of tease this out more, what we believe is that you need to have a smart content strategy to activate this knowledge. An example of this might be with this knowledge, we establish a sort of conservative investment level on Facebook and run an ads campaign of static images and maybe some illustrated moving graphics targeted at women in our client's geographic area between a certain age. And it's maybe branded or unbranded. And the essence of it is like, the top 3 checklists after an accident. Step 1, contact the police. Step 2, contact an attorney. Step 3, contact your friends, family members. Make sure everyone knows you're okay. There's different creative messaging that you can deploy, and we could go deeper into that, but I just want to illustrate how you actually tactically make decisions with this data. Now, another layer of this is not just who are these people, but why aren't people contacting an attorney? Because this tells us these are the behavior blockers that we need to address to open that pie from 45% to larger. So I don't think I'd need an attorney as one. I wouldn't think to contact an attorney as another. I can't afford an attorney, it's 20%. And I'd feel bad suing a person. These are the top 4 at least. And the reality is these are not good reasons for not contacting an attorney. They are misconceptions or they are lack of conceptions, which, as frustrating as it may be, means to me and to us at PMP that this is a solvable problem. We need to educate and take tactical efforts to educate people of what their rights are and what their opportunities are. Now, as people are moving along and they are taking action to explore what type of solution is available to them, they're going to take certain behaviors. These are people who may not yet know that they should be hiring an attorney. So what are they going to do to uncover that knowledge and take action? They're going to have conversations with a doctor or physical therapist, a police officer. They might have a difficult experience with the insurance company, or they might have a friend, family member, or colleague who suggests to them that they should contact an attorney. Until they have these conversations, they are unaware, potentially, that they have recourse and that contacting an attorney may be a solution for them. So it's important to note these constituencies, if you will, as areas of influence in the lives of people who are on their path post-accident, but prior to hiring an attorney. And we need to build relationships and inroads and strategies for influencing these pockets of individuals. So the playbook would tell us to invest to change the behaviors of people who would not contact an attorney. To revisit the concept here, instead of focusing on we're a more aggressive law firm or we're better than the other guy, there might be more value in focusing messaging efforts up funnel to try to educate people and influence more people to, following an accident, contact an attorney and pursue their rights for a potential settlement amount that is fair, commensurate with their injuries or sustained injuries. Some tactics and strategies just to float here: community engagement. Have relationships, referral networks, and agreements with doctors and physical therapists. Maybe have relationships with police unions or other professional organizations. You might want to leverage your CRM email touch points with your clients, because after all, those friends, family members, and colleagues, they oftentimes might be former clients of yours. And so you want to make sure that you're top of mind as they're sitting at their desk and a colleague comes in with a sore neck. It's like, hey, I had a great experience with XYZ. Maybe you don't, have a claim, but if you do, you should at least call them and see what potential path forward you have. And then lastly, from a content marketing or paid media or messaging standpoint, there's ways you can pivot your content strategy to get at this. So one example is case or no case. This is a spot that one of our clients does as an example. It's looking at different scenarios and saying whether or not the person has a compensable case or not. There's a lot of messaging and noise around huge settlements, the big cases, so to speak, which, don't get me wrong, are great for a personal injury practice to take on, but might be intimidating from a messaging standpoint. If I'm in a sort of simple, like fender bender, and I've got a neck ache, maybe I don't, feel like I'm well suited for the attorney who's highlighting 8-figure settlements on their billboards. Maybe I can take opportunities as a law firm to educate people on even smaller cases, so to speak. There's recourse that people should pursue. Another thing to call out here too is testimonials. Ease of working with a law firm. It opens up the aperture. People are getting stuck, not reaching out because it feels like a bigger barrier exists between them and getting legal support. So testimonials are understandably very emotionally charged because typically it involves some level of tragedy. But there's another way of doing a testimonial that is much more about, I had an accident. I didn't know what to do. A friend of mine said I should contact an attorney. I contacted this attorney, and it was incredibly easy. They picked up the phone, they responded, they texted. I felt taken care of throughout, and it was a phenomenal experience. Talking about reducing friction, making the process seem less intimidating. These are other things that we can do that are a little bit different than what we might see in the current landscape of personal injury marketing. Now, moving on, once somebody realizes that they should hire an attorney, they take certain sets of behaviors to understand what type of attorney. When we talk about what type of attorney, we want to know sort of the practice area, the fees, and then also the criteria that they should be using to evaluate an attorney. So a couple of insights from this research. Type of attorney, 73% of the general population do not know that they need to contact a personal injury attorney. Just to level set on sort of what the amount people think about personal injury law might be in reality. So they're going to have to take some action to understand that and not hire a corporate attorney. Cost. This comes up over and over again, but 20% of the people wouldn't think to contact an attorney because it's too expensive. This is a huge barrier. People think attorney, they think, I can't afford that. Only 8% of the general population know that there is no fee unless money is won. Now, this is despite a tremendous amount of messaging that exists out there that simply is more or less no fee unless we win. We see that or variations of that everywhere. And I'm not saying that's bad messaging, but I think this data and years of that messaging being in the market, we should, be honest with ourselves and say there's something broken here with the content strategy, how we're developing our creative, how we're developing this messaging around the lack of cost to hire, that level of friction. We should probably be thinking about different ways we can structure the language to communicate that you don't need to pay us. It's free to talk to us. Don't hesitate. Contact us. Now, a couple of other things from a criteria standpoint. These are the common answers that people provided in terms of how they think about what makes a good or bad attorney and how they should evaluate who is right for them. And in order of most common answers, it's demonstrated experience with cases like mine, just years of experience in general, a prior client sharing his or her experience, ease of working with a law firm, and size of law firm. And it's worth noting that size of law firm, we didn't designate large or small. There could be benefits or drawbacks to each of those. I think what's absent from this list that we often see showing up in creative is they don't need the toughest attorney or the most compassionate attorney necessarily. They don't need, highest settlement value. Obviously, they want that, but these are not the things that they're most thinking about. But those are things that we often see in law firm creative. So we don't see as many things around ease of working with a law firm, as an example. And we want to make sure that we're highlighting things like testimonials and years of experience and credibility as much and as frequently as we possibly can in our messaging in new and novel ways that drives home the point. So how do you know what type of attorney you need? So these are the actions people take to understand and decide on how they select on those criteria and how they think about the cost and so on and so forth. The folks they talk to, contact my insurance company, contact a friend, family member, or colleague, and Google what to do in this situation. A couple things I want to point out. One is, this is the first time we see Google materially showing up in the journey. And keep in mind all the actions that took place before they even get to this very powerful platform. But now that they're here, there's opportunities to leverage Google to our advantage. This is where long tail keyword searches really come into play, because people are researching the type of attorney that they need. And so a really well researched and useful blog about how someone should be thinking about hiring an attorney is a really good way of leveraging Google at this stage of the client's psychology and their journey to hopefully educate them and bring them more into your orbit. Another thing to point out is, we want to do what we can to peel away people who are going to contact their insurance company and not an attorney. Because as I mentioned, once they get sort of sucked into that vortex, it's hard to get them released. So another thing that we could do tactically to avoid that trap is we can create blog content that's related to insurance information. Thinking about gap insurance, issues with your insurance policy, things of that nature. These are informational blog resources. They're going to capture people at this stage of the journey, inform them, hopefully, that they have recourse and that there's an attorney who would be willing to speak with them and manage them down the path towards the law firm. Another thing to call out is contact the police and contact a doctor. If you'll remember, earlier in the journey, immediately following an accident, contacting the police and contacting a doctor are much larger. They're the largest, most common behaviors at that point in the journey. And I highlight this just to demonstrate people's behavior and psychology changes depending on where they are in the journey, what amount of information and direction they have. As you're building relationships with physicians and police officers, it's important to note that they play much more of an important role in educating a person that they should contact an attorney. They may not be the people to tell them which type of attorney to hire in their time of need. Now, as we move along, we see non-channel research. And so this is the behavior people take early on, trying to understand what they should be doing. And so the most common behaviors here are people are going to contact friends and family members or colleagues. So they know they need an attorney, they need a personal injury attorney, they want someone that fits this criteria, they know that it's a contingency fee model, but they don't know who to hire. They're going to, maybe speak to a friend, or maybe they know an attorney who's going to refer them. The top two bars here are largely word of mouth folks. Now, we double clicked into the questions here a bit to understand who was really certain that taking this path would lead to hiring a personal injury attorney. And what we whittled it down to is roughly 40% of the people knew that they were going to hire an attorney through word of mouth. So going back to what I said earlier, friends, family members of attorneys, they're going to contact their friend or family member who is an attorney to get support. And doing the math further out from there, what we identified is about 60% of people contacting an attorney are what we would consider the, quote, addressable audience. These are people who can be influenced by marketing or advertising efforts to hire a specific law firm or lawyer. So that's the population when we think about marketing and advertising efforts on behalf of law firms. These are the people we really want to be talking to, because the people who are going to be hiring an attorney from word of mouth are not going to be swayed by the types of efforts we take from a marketing and advertising standpoint for law firms. Now, once people have done some initial research, having sort of offline conversations with people and starting to search online, they're going to go a little bit deeper. These are 23% of the people who are online from the prior slide. So this is where they are in this stage of the journey. Certainly a much higher percentage go online at some point in the journey. But at this point, these are the 23% of people who are not going to hire somebody from word of mouth or from an advertisement. What are they going to search? They're going to search attorneys in general, resources, blog topics about car accidents or neck injuries. They're going to be looking at reviews of attorneys. And I want to call out the 13% there because I'm going to revisit that in a moment. It's important to focus on long tail content to capture these top two bars here, because people are researching things that are general, not necessarily specific to personal injury attorney near me. It's also important to focus on reviews for a variety of reasons. Also, blog content is going to help solve for resources on how to find the right attorney. Another thing to call out, that's a flaw, candidly, in the research, is there's stated versus observed behavior. What someone says they're going to do when they're consciously thinking about it, as opposed to what they would actually do when maybe they're taking subconscious action. What we found is only 4% of the people said that they would search for an attorney they've already heard of. We compare that to an e-consultancy study that says that from a search standpoint, 82% of searchers choose a familiar brand for the first click. So even though there are several options on Google's first page, someone's likely or more likely to click on a link, the blue text, of a firm they may have heard of before. And this is where branding helps. Either advertising, or maybe they read a blog on your website previously. They're familiar with your name, and that level of familiarity breeds trust, which is going to influence them to click on your link over a competitor's link at this stage of the journey. Now, people are going to take a certain set of actions to validate their decisions once they've identified that they've got one or a few attorneys who they might want to hire. They're going to look at Google reviews. And remember, I highlighted the Google reviews from the prior slide. It was only 13% of people said that they would take that into account at that stage of the journey. Now it's 46%. They know they need an attorney, and they're going to go to that attorney's Google reviews just to validate, to make sure that people are saying positive things about them. And I think this is the power of Google reviews as part of the process. I also think that it calls out the power of social proof. People want to hear from a third party or someone else that this attorney is good and is going to represent them fairly and honestly. I also think this helps frame how people look at Google reviews. They're primarily looking at your Google reviews and caring about your Google reviews when they've already sort of decided that they're probably going to hire you. This is a point of validation. So think about Google reviews as a tool or a mechanism that plays that role in the client's journey. And lastly, they're going to contact a firm. Most people are going to call the firm. Some people are going to be filling out an online form. And then to a lesser extent, people are going to be engaging in live chat. We validated this against averages across all of our clients and touch points that they see from their intake. I'd be curious to see what your law firm looks like from this standpoint. But we found that it's a pretty similar distribution. Most people are going to want to call. And that's something that we like to see because it's one less piece of friction in the process. They're talking to you, sharing information, engaging with you, and building that relationship already. I think the most important takeaway here, though, is that 76% of people are likely to contact multiple attorneys. Intake matters. So there's the story of someone who contacts a firm and they're going to contact someone else. That's not a foregone conclusion. If you have really excellent intake, they're not going to want to contact other attorneys. So it's really important to shave that 76% down by getting them on the first call and building that relationship and convincing them that you are in a position to best help them. Now, this slide summarizes everything and overlays the data on top of it. And if you recall, the way that I suggested we should be thinking about this is first understanding what the most common behaviors are at each stage of the buying process waterfall. Now that we've done that, the job of the marketer or the law firm is to look at these numbers, pick the high ones, the most common behaviors that we see in the journey, and identify the ones where we as marketer or as a law firm have the greatest strength or likelihood to influence behavior there. You don't have sufficient time, energy, or budget to do everything. So the ideal way to treat this is be very disciplined about the lanes you want to stick in. So pick 2, 3, maybe 4 squares here with high percentages and say, I want to build concerted efforts about influencing people's behavior at that stage of the journey. So you might say, you know what, I'm going to be really focused on drafting a list of doctors in my local area and building those relationships and being crystal clear with them about the type of communication I want them to provide to prospective clients. I want to massage those relationships and build them over time. I'm going to spend a lot of energy and time focused on that. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm also going to work with a firm or do it in-house and have a really robust and effective and thoughtful online content strategy, because I know that a lot of people are researching and we can help them with that research process. And in so doing, we can influence their behavior to potentially hire an attorney, and they're going to know about us at that point. So hopefully they're going to hire us. And then lastly, I'm going to be really militant about my Google reviews. I'm going to be, even though it's awkward, I'm going to be asking for positive reviews from clients at the point of settlement or at the logical point in the relationship. I'm going to be incentivizing my staff with gift cards or otherwise to be getting Google reviews, because I know that while it's not a huge brand awareness vehicle, I know that when people want to hire me, they're going to be looking at my Google reviews and they're going to want to see lots of Google reviews that are positive. So I need to really nail that in. So I'm going to focus on those three things, and I'm going to move the needle in a big way, as opposed to peanut butter spreading a strategy across the board. So, it's different firm by firm, but I just want to articulate ways we should be thinking about this information in this framework. But, a lot of this is academic and sort of researchy and wonky. I want to pull it out a little bit and make it a little bit more practical. Here are examples I've seen in real life that reflect tactics or strategies or philosophies baked within the playbook approach. And I can't say that, these firms read the playbook and are acting on it. These are just good representations of it. So the first is on the left-hand side of the screen here, is connecting the waterfall. This is a billboard that I saw when I was traveling in Los Angeles a couple months ago. It highlights a search bar that says best car accident lawyers in California, Jacoby and Myers. What we're doing here is we're tying multiple steps of the journey together. We're influencing behavior early in the process through brand awareness to take to search in their time of need. And then when you go to search, you won't be surprised to learn that Jacoby and Myers ranks for a lot of the important car accident search terms in that geographic area. And they show up on paid search, either through PPC or LSA. So it's a strength of theirs. It's a marketing capability that they feel confident in. So what they're trying to do in this case is encourage people at the point of, awareness to take action later on that is an advantage to what they're already doing very well. On the right-hand side of the screen, a concept of expanding the market. So this is a Morgan & Morgan TV ad, and they have a series of these that are on this theme, but this particular one says, canceling your gym membership is hard. Hiring Morgan & Morgan for your injury is easy. There's levity to the commercial. We're highlighting a mobile display. It feels friendly, approachable, and it's talking about the ease of doing it. It's opening the pie. It's saying it's not scary. We're not some scary guy in a suit pounding our chest. We are a service that helps you. We're easier than your gym membership. We're as normal as going to the gym. This type of messaging is super powerful in expanding the pie of people who might not otherwise contact an attorney. Now I'll leave you with this because there's a lot baked in here. But the key points are that messaging matters because roughly 50% of people may not contact an attorney. It's really important to be dialed in on a smart creative and content strategy. The days of set it and forget it television for personal injury law advertising are over. You need to have different content for different audiences on different platforms, all at influencing different parts of that customer journey. Be very clear and smart, and it doesn't cost a lot to do that well. Network matters. So build your local network, engage in the community, inform key influencers and stakeholders of the benefits of hiring an attorney and ideally benefiting you, so you can move the tide to your advantage and change the number of people who are aware of the recourse that they have. And then lastly, pick your spot. Not every firm has a massive marketing budget. Some are just starting out, some are sort of middle of the road, some are large firms. Regardless, find the strategy that fits the size of your firm and your objectives and your marketing investment capacity, and focus in there. Be very disciplined about it. So with that, I'll just wrap up by saying, our hope here is that people start to think about their strategies differently. There's a lot of false precision in honing in on this cost per click rate or this ranking for this keyword, all things that, are certainly important, but they're not important if you have the wrong strategy. If you're not thinking about things holistically in the right way, you're going to be throwing good dollars after bad, chasing optimizations and objectives that don't actually move the needle with respect to the opportunity set that you're chasing. So, there's tactics and strategies and creative recommendations that we could certainly have a deeper conversation about that underpins a lot of this. But I think the big takeaway is that we should be thinking about things in a smart, holistic, market-wide way. Otherwise, we're not going to stay competitive because it is a more competitive market for personal injury law firms. The nature of marketing strategies are more sophisticated. You need to be surgical, you need to be smart, and you need to be wise with your resources. And you need to be thinking about things strategically like this, as opposed to just doing what we did yesterday, plus or minus 5%, and expecting different results. So I hope you enjoyed this, got a lot out of it. I hope the voiceover provided some clarity on top of the materials themselves. If you'd like to talk about this further, happy to have a conversation with you or anybody at your firm about this. We have data that underpins each individual market that we can pull some insights out of for each law firm, as this is all national. But nevertheless, hope it's helpful, and we'd be happy to have a conversation if it's right for your firm and you think that maybe we could benefit you. All right, thank you.